that there are other teams that are on his radar.
Hello. What other teams are we talking about here?
Well, the New York Giants. Mm-hmm. That has to be another team that's on the radar. Even though he hasn't taken a visit, everybody is reporting that the Giants are still very much in play. He has a home in New Jersey, so it's not a stretch to say that he's going to swing by at some point if he doesn't make up his mind to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers first. I would anticipate that something before the draft happens where Aaron Rodgers does engage the New York Giants just to get a feel for what exactly they're looking for from him, what his role will be in 2025 if he were to sign as a free agent there. But this Rodgers saga is going to take a lot of twists and turns. I don't know that it's going to be as straightforward as everybody suspects it should be. We all acknowledge that based on the logical landing spots, the open vacancies that are around the NFL when it comes to QB1, Pittsburgh seems to be the best. But if that's the case, why hasn't Aaron Rodgers made up his mind already? That's the part that nobody can figure out. The timing of this is suspect, in my opinion.
So the Giants were a team that has been floated out there. That was already in our ether. But are we talking a mystery team here?
That's how I took what Jeff was saying. I took that as Jeff was saying. There are teams that we have not discussed that could be in on it, right? The Giants, to your point, were kind of out, and based on what Jeff's saying, now it feels like, okay, let's put them back in until he signs somewhere else. Mm-hmm. The Vikings were a team that we know we don't know anything with him. We assumed he would want to go to, but they weren't necessarily interested in him. And then the reporting was kind of conflicting on this. Is like, Adam Schefter said last week with us, and he'll join us at 8 a.m. Eastern today, no chance, but
a long shot.
A long shot. Not no shot, but a long shot. Thank you, Smalls. I got that incorrect. So I came up with some teams here.
Uh-oh.
Because I thought the same way that you thought, Smalls, in terms of mystery teams. Let's play around to this. San Francisco?
I thought that too.
That's been the one we've said for months on our show. You said it last week. You doubled down on it, CC.
Yep.
The idea of if you're not going to sign Purdy, is there a plan that's not Purdy? And they haven't said they're not going to sign Purdy. They haven't signed Purdy yet. So San Francisco is a team. Remember early on we talked Tennessee. Then it just went away. Now, I think they're going to take Cam Ward, number one, his pro day yesterday at Miami. He was lighting it up, and he kind of gave that look over to the Tennessee.
He's got a live arm now.
I'm going to give you two other wild ones here.
Uh-oh, what we got?
Wild ones.
I actually think, despite the disdain for the belief that Rodgers can still be the guy, you specifically may like this one. What about Miami?
I knew you were going to go there. But would he be a backup to Tua?
I don't hate it.
Start in place of Tua?
No, get value for him now.
But that's a hell of a pill to swallow if you're Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins. You just gave Tua a $200 million contract with $170 million guaranteed. We going to move off of him after year one on a deal? I mean, it feels like the death knell for the general manager. And if Chris Greer is out the door, there's no job security for Mike McDaniel. So, I mean, that's
what you're saying makes sense.
That would be – I don't know that they have the job security to make that kind of decision.
That's fair, too. That's fair.
I don't know. From a fit standpoint, it makes sense. There are weapons there. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. But just with the politics, the business aspect of it, how do you justify that if you're the general manager and the head coach?
Well, if Tua gets injured again, you're going to be in a bad spot anyway.
Sure.
So maybe they're anticipating that, and they're hedging their bet.
So maybe it's a situation where Rodgers decides that he's going to retire, quote unquote, and then if something happens to Tua, he can step in and be the guy in Miami. Mm-hmm. He can be the person that rides in on the white horse to save the day. He could be that person. It changes things from an expectation standpoint. It lowers the floor just a little bit, and that might be the kind of situation that he's looking for. Because make no mistake, Aaron Rodgers' next team will likely be his last team. Mm-hmm. He wants to make sure that it ends up being a good situation that he steps into where it might not necessarily be the highest of expectations. It might not be the highest bar, but he has an opportunity to exceed what everybody is thinking that they're going to get from it.
I got one more.
What we got?
Now, I don't believe that these two, to my knowledge, have a relationship, but technically, they are business partners. Cleveland Browns, owned by Jimmy Haslam, minority governor, Milwaukee Bucks. Aaron Rodgers, tiny piece, minority governor, Milwaukee Bucks. It's an easy, hey, can you pass along Jimmy's number? Let me call him, or can you pass along Aaron's number? Like, it's an easy get to each other kind of thing. Not that Aaron Rodgers would struggle getting to owners of NFL teams, obviously, but there is a connection there. Smalls, you brought this up months ago with the Cleveland Browns and that connection. I don't see it, but when Jeff said that yesterday, my mind went exactly where your mind went in that terms of mystery team. Now, this is why this is interesting. Is it mystery team, or is it the Giants have been revived in this conversation? Because 2 years, $8 million for Jameis Winston does not mean you can't add someone else. It means you are going to actually add someone else. Cleveland Browns off the board, we think?
Yeah, I think Cleveland's off the board.
Yeah, I don't see it. I thought you were going to say New Orleans.
That's an interesting one.
But
that was the only one you mentioned or didn't mention that I had on my list too was New Orleans, because I thought the same thing with San Francisco. Obviously, with the question mark until Brock Purdy is signed, we're going to speculate on that. Aaron Rodgers' hometown team, back to California. What a nice way to bookend his career, to go back to that state. I thought about Miami because of the questions around Tua, and they need to make sure that they have a safety valve there. And another team I kept thinking of was New Orleans. Why haven't we floated that at all?
Because they just converted the Derek Carr contract of a huge cap hit this year and then void years moving forward. And I took that as he's their starting quarterback this year. And that they're actually going to use the guy they have as the bridge quarterback. That's how I brought up Tua with the Dolphins, so it's not like we can put this off the board there.
But when we're talking mystery team, it's a team that has made moves that would not indicate that they're going after Rodgers and would surprise us.
There's no chance that's a winning circumstance with Rodgers there, right?
In New Orleans?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, not that many of these are. I'm not saying Cleveland is. I'm not saying Miami is. Pittsburgh and Minnesota seem like the most obvious, maybe he could win their teams. But this is fascinating now, because now there's a whole curveball in this, that at least the idea of mystery team is now out there for Aaron Rodgers. Coming up, we do have to dive into one of those teams we mentioned because...
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn làm vòng. Vòng hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là quả ớt. Mọi người, hôm nay vòng của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là củ khoai. Bây giờ mình bắt đầu làm nhé. Khổ quá. Mọi người, ở đây màu xanh, màu xanh.
tích cực.